Hello viewers, I'm Red2006 and I'm pleased to have you join me for my first Let's Play project. I'm starting out with A Link to the Past Randomizer. A Link to the Past is one of my favourite games. I first experienced it on the Game Boy Advance. I unfortunately just missed out on the SNES era, but started out with the Zelda series when playing Wind Waker actually. Somehow I did miss out on Ocarina of Time despite being an avid Nintendo 64 fan, but I made up for that because Wind Waker had the bonus disc. Anyway, as I experienced this, it became one of my favourite games and the randomizer cemented that. As you will see, I'm playing as Bronzor. Bronzor happens to be one of my favourite Pokemon since I'm a big fan of both Psychic and Steel types. Admittedly an unusual topic to talk about Pokemon in a Zelda game, but there is an interesting backstory for Bronzor I'd like to share at some point. Anyway, my usual modus operandi for this is to go and loot my uncle's corpse like any dutiful nephew would, and then head out to Kakariko Village to pick up some items. That entryway just there, when I did my first entrance randomizer, that led me straight to the final boss. Alright, so we've picked our uncle's pockets and haven't got much. Hopefully whatever's in here... Yep, we have a key. Probably clear to anyone who is experienced, but I'm playing a key sanity run. For those who aren't familiar, it mixes the maps, keys and compasses in with the regular item randomizer. A good test if you want to explore and really see how well you know the game. In fact, I've actually learned quite a few tricks from playing the randomizer. Okay, as we get past a bit of lag there, it's time to tell that story I mentioned about Bronzor. You might be wondering, why does a mirror wind up evolving into a bell? Because, in fairness, Bronzor is actually based on a bronze mirror. According to the legend of the Bell of Mugen, a number of mirrors were needed for a village to make a new bell for its temple. One woman did not want to surrender her mirror, and often thought about stealing it back whenever she passed the temple. Because a mirror was believed to contain a woman's soul, when the time came to melt everything down and make the bell, her mirror would not melt. When this was discovered, she committed suicide in shame. She left behind a letter saying that while her mirror could be used, whoever broke the bell would gain great riches from her ghost. Many people tried to break that bell, with the incessant ringing driving the priests mad. Eventually, they wound up rolling it down a hill into a deep swamp, sinking it, and ultimately giving the woman the revenge she wanted from beyond the grave. Interestingly, in Pokemon Pearl version, Bronzong's Pokédex entry states that one caused a sensation when it was dug up at a construction site after a 2,000-year sleep. Could it be the same one? Anyway, we're not really finding that much, but handy hint for those playing key sanity runs. The bar down the bottom keeps track of your keys, big keys, and hold select to see your maps and compasses. In addition to the references I mentioned before, oh hello. Okay, getting the Power Glove is definitely useful, but in addition to the references earlier, Bronzor actually references a different trainer renowned for using a Steel Psychic type in this game. A lot of sprites have been created for this game, including bunny forms, essentially the form Link takes when he's transformed into a rabbit in the Dark World. In the case of Bronzor, it will actually turn into Steven Stone under those circumstances. Steven is famous for using Metagross, but I suppose the sprites from Ruby and Sapphire worked with this a little better than the ones from Diamond and Pearl because Bronzong is actually Lucian's ace in Diamond and Pearl, and a very difficult Pokemon to take down at the time. perhaps referencing the difficulty of destroying the Bell of Mugen. And while we're here, just a quick demonstration of how to get all these chests in one fell swoop. Power Glove and the Moon Pearl this early. Alright, some good pickups. I've had a few failed recordings if I'm going to be honest. Amusingly, in 2 of those I found the ice rod in the same spot, underwater down near Lake Hylia. Need to build up a bit of money. I'll go and buy some bombs so we can explore the rest of the town. And yes, speaking of failed recordings, I've had a lot. I've managed to flood quite a few things. In fact, yesterday I spent about 2 hours managing to screw everything up. I wanted to do a better recording with a proper microphone, but it turned into a bit of a fiasco. Failed takes, recordings not going well, and eventually I kept having to switch randomizer seats because I kind of lost the element of surprise. I did have one recording that actually worked, sort of a proof of concept, and it's going to be difficult to beat that because within Hyrule Castle alone, I managed... Okay, we've got the Master Sword already. But yes, as I was saying, in that recording, I managed to find the Power Glove and the Titan's Mitt, the Flippers and the Pegasus Boots within Hyrule Castle. Not too shabby, really. We have some pretty good kit already. This is probably turning out to be one of the better runs. I haven't got the Master Sword this early very often. In fact, in that sort of proof of concept run, it did take me quite a while to get the sword, even though I had all those really good items. You can use the hammer as a substitute, but if I'm going to be honest, I'm not very fond of using it. I'm kind of terrible with it, to be honest. Can't blame my tools too much. But I do find that the poor range and slower speed does hinder it. Are you kidding me? I have never got the Tempered Sword that early. That's not what I was expecting, but... Alright, well, I'll have to find a bit of money so I can buy whatever the bottle salesman gives me, but... Let's be honest, I can't really complain given what I have. Worth checking the library, because if something good is in there, you will need the Pegasus Boots. I'm going to have to come back to that. In that proof of concept recording, there was one key I was missing, which of course was in the library. And of course, wouldn't you know it, I pointed it out in the first episode. Might as well grab that just to be on the safe side. It's fairly easy to get through the race. I'll show you a shortcut. We will also deal with these guys in their feud. You bomb the entrance open and apparently they consider stopping fighting. Remember kids, explosions solve everything, as Michael Bay has probably taught you. Through here and you can jump off this ledge and go... That's a new record for me. Okay, having that key to the Desert Palace is useful. Still don't have the money to buy the bottle, you need 100 rupees, but I can, now that I think about it, go back to Kakariko Village and grind a bit. Was there an enemy under that? Looked like there was. If you get a bottle, you can go and talk to the bug catching kid as well. But we'll quickly raise some money. A couple of jaunts in here ought to do the trick. And then we can proceed. If you're short on money, this is a reasonable spot for grinding. Of course, you get money for nothing once things really start going. You do want to hold on to your rupees to a degree. The bottle salesman, not bad because 100 rupees is passable. King Zora, on the other hand, now that's a nightmare. You're probably going to be stumping up a ridiculous amount of money for absolutely nothing. You might get a key somewhere along the way, but you might also wind up being conned. In fact, you're more than likely to be conned. You'll probably wind up paying all that money just for bombs or 20 rupees, or heaven forbid you wind up getting the 1 rupee there. And from the bottle salesman, that's not bad. Given you've had to pay a fair whack for full heart containers throughout the game, could be a lot worse. Next destinations will be down around Lake Hylia. The location to which we are heading is an interesting one because it's actually the only circumstance in the game where what you do in the light world affects the dark world. It's an unfortunately underused mechanic, if I'm going to be honest. You need to pull the switch to raise the water in the channel in order to get into the Swamp Palace. If you catch those guys, they give you something. And just while I'm thinking of it, boomerangs can damage those enemies, but they do half the damage of a regular sword. Okay. I wanted to demonstrate that because even the items you get when you stun an enemy with the boomerang are randomized. Since I got the full magic jar, that will always be what I get when I do that. So yeah, you go into the back room here, and pulling that lever to fill the channel will get you into the Swamp Palace. It's a little unfortunate that this mechanic of what you do in the light world affects the dark world, or vice versa, didn't show up anywhere aside from here. Would have been pretty creative if I'm going to be honest, but what can you do? And you will want to be fairly careful going through this area too. Those crabs do 2 hearts worth of damage if you touch them. Quite a lot in the early stages of the game. Moldorms aren't much better, but thankfully I can shoot them down from a distance. And that is incredibly satisfying. Get 1 hit, you can usually stun lock them. But we have plenty of big keys. And the hammer. Well, some pretty good finds, to be honest. So let's see, judging by what we've got, I honestly think the game is leading us into the dark world at some point. And it probably would behoove us to go there. However, the first thing I'm going to do is clear out the Ice Rod Cave, then poke around in the Desert Palace, see what's there. in that previous run, I did actually save going to the Desert Palace because I didn't have that one key you can find as part of the randomizer. Worth noting, keys that are dropped by enemies or appear under pots are not featured in the randomizer logic. They will stay where they are. So I decided I didn't want to go into the Desert Palace because I didn't have those essential keys. That was a stupid idea because the flute was actually there. And I could have saved myself a lot of travel time and cutting and the like. It would have been a lot easier to edit too because I was sort of jump cutting around the place, and I'm trying not to do that too much. Of course, if there's a bit of dead air or I'm just backtracking way too much, I probably will cut a bit out. Oh well, nothing special. So we can make our way back to the desert, I think. A few useful items to find along the way there, and we can get through to the latter part. Well, we can do the latter part, but the thing is there aren't actually any chests in that latter part, and you will need the lantern. Or the fire rod, something that can light things up. There are plenty of torches hidden around the Desert Palace, but the only ones you actually need to light are located right at the end before the boss. The bosses, in fairness, probably won't be too hard given what I have. But of course, I would prefer to make sure I had a bit of extra health. Also, you know how I mentioned that the items you get from stunning enemies with the boomerang are random? The items those hoarders drop are random as well. There's a lot of work that's gone into randomizing things in this game. It's actually really creative. And when the time comes for you to get the Bombos medallion, that vulture there actually gets caught in the explosion. Right, the guy who lives in this cave is apparently called Aguinar. I don't think you find that out as part of the regular gameplay. To be honest, it's been so long since I've played a regular run, I kind of forgot. Okay, so that's 3 heart pieces. Oh no, wait, I can't go into the Desert Palace. Don't have the Book of Medora. I can get into the second part, but I can't actually get in the back way because I don't have the flute or the Titan's Men. So tell you what I'll do. I'll head out to the Eastern Palace, and then I'll probably wrap things up there because we'll be going into the Dark World in the next episode. There are plenty of shortcuts you can take playing through the game. For example, if you have the magic cape fairly early on, it's a pretty good bet that you will actually need to use it to go into Aghanin's tower. You don't actually take damage from the barrier, you can just walk straight through. Particularly handy, and you can also take a few little shortcuts here and there, like not needing the hook shot to get into what they call the bumper cave. It's a cave hiding a heart piece that you would enter in the Dark World where the entrance to Death Mountain lies. There have been a few occasions where I've been completely stumped, looked something up and thought, I didn't know you could do that because you don't encounter it in the regular game. So we're heading out to Sahasrara's place. Call him whatever you like. Quite a few people tend to just not bother and call him something like Shamalama Ding Dong or Sarsaparilla. Interestingly, I was considering just calling him Shamalama Ding Dong, but each time I've just said Sahasrara. He will tell you where the green pendant is, which can be useful. Also, those cracked walls with the circle around them, if you have the Pegasus boots, you can actually charge them down. Just dash right into them and you'll break them. Regular cracks in the wall, however, you will have to bomb. Okay, so I can't go as far as I'd like because I don't have the lamp, and I'll just sort of be bluffing my way through. But we'll grab what we can out in the easy cuts. Would be nice if we grabbed the lamp there. Of course, we will still need the bot. If you're doing an enemy randomizer, it's quite useful because you can actually proceed through certain areas that would otherwise need the bow to defeat enemies. The enemy randomizers have the side effect of adding a bit of extra chaos. Some rooms which become difficult because of the enemy combinations can become a lot easier. However, fairly basic rooms will become a lot harder depending on what you get. Worth noting, cuckoos and fish, as you might have seen in the lake when I drained the water to get 20 rupees near the entrance to the Swamp Palace, are actually counted in the enemy randomizer. So, where you may encounter Lionels, for example, you might wind up running into a fish. Where you encounter cuckoos, you will probably encounter a horde of regular enemies. The chickens are still more dangerous if you provoke them, though. On a regular run of the dungeon, run through here to get the map. You can, if you're good at exploring, wind up getting the magic powder before this dungeon. So a couple more chests we can grab in here. We'll be able to get the deep chest, no worries. Being able to dispatch enemies from a distance is very convenient. When I was first doing this, I had all those great items, but I didn't have a sword, so I had to rely on pots and the boomerang to deal with the Stalfos. And I demonstrated exactly why I had graduated with honours from the Imperial Stormtrooper Marksmanship Academy. I was that bad at hitting them. These arrow tiles, they will usually tell you where something is. They're not always helpful because you might have already got the item they're talking about. So this, well, you are often going to wind up having 20 rupees as the disappointing finale to a long adventure, unfortunately. Anyway, I've come as far as I can in here. I think it's a good spot to wrap it up. At the start of the next episode, I will be heading into the Dark World and plundering things around the Village of Outcasts. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next episode.